Well, it's that time to check out the controversial clip, the actual reason Cardano will flip Bitcoin. Charles Hoskinson. Original clip is in the description, guys. Hit that subscribe, hit that like, let's roll the clip.
Yahoo fail or MySpace fail or all these other things because they were inflexible. That is what flips Bitcoin.
Last year at Rare Evo, you said,
and that is why Cardano, I feel, is probably going to become the biggest cryptocurrency in the world.
You believe Cardano will become the biggest cryptocurrency in the world. That inevitably means it'll flip Bitcoin. When do you see that happening?
If we can do what I'm saying, there's no way to beat Cardano because there's nothing that can compete with it, because at the end of the day, it has lived up to what Satoshi started. At the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We're trying to change the economic, political, and social systems of the world for everyone, everywhere. Billions of people. So if you build a growth engine that doesn't lose its people and it's always adding people, and you build a growth engine where you can absorb all the technology of your competitors, at some point you just outgrow, and then you wake up and it's a multi-trillion-dollar ecosystem with trillions of dollars of value moving around every single day. That's just a fact. It's a competitive reality and fact. And it's not done by any one individual's actions and behaviors. It's done by the collective whole's self-interest, just like a normal economy does. It's almost like GDP. Okay, so some people are in Argentina right now, and they're fighting like hell to get the Argentine government to adopt something. Some people are in Ghana right now, fighting like hell to get the Ghanaian government to do things. There's some people in Vietnam getting Vietnamese game developers to do something. There's people wanting to be partner chains. And once Midnight is out, and if it's successful, there'll be hundreds of partner chains coming, and people are building and launching. There are over 300 dApps that are at live and doing interesting things in Cardano. And every one of them has a team and a CEO and all kinds of people, and they're fighting like hell to get their stuff growing. The key is to enable and empower these people in the right way, that they have the resources and inspiration and tooling necessary to get to the next level. Then if you've designed it right, they come together as a community and they do the next step and then the next step. That is what flips Bitcoin, because Bitcoin stalled. The only value proposition it has is it's big and successful. That's it. It's not some new technology. It's not some new capability. It's not the fact that it's super easy to use it to go and do something interesting. It's big and successful. That's what Yahoo's value proposition was. That's what Microsoft Windows value proposition was. That's what Windows Phone's value proposition was. That's what MySpace's value proposition was. And, so network effects don't mean anything.
Quick pause there for some quick 2 cents. I agree. A lot of those projects, right, people were using religiously. They were so convinced that like it was cutting edge, MySpace, all that. I've seen that rise and fall, BlackBerry, right? First to market doesn't always mean that it's the best. At the same time, I mean, I like Bitcoin. It's like just classic. It's just OG. It's just, it has steered away. To his credit, Charles is right. The intended design, it steered away from what it was intended. But often, this is also why UX design, they say design kind of for the wild. People will use it in different contexts from the intended purpose. We see that with the design of everyday items. I do agree with him. Cardano is set to really empower those people, the groups of people, and to deliver like incentives and governance and whatnot, and really let DeFi blossom the way it was intended, as opposed to how it's been cut out now with just like VCs and smoke and mirrors.
In technology, in economic, political, and social systems, it means absolutely nothing. If you don't believe me, go ahead and pull out your BlackBerry, open up Internet Explorer, go to, reset your MySpace account. So log into your Yahoo email or AOL email, and then reset your MySpace account and go ahead and blog about it, and create a little note there. Okay. So obviously none of these things are significant, but when I was growing up, they were the market standard and viewed as completely unassailable, and nobody could touch them. And they've been completely usurped by new things. And we think Google is unassailable. Look at the growth of Perplexity. Google's almost unusable now as a product, and all these AI search engines are a huge threat to them. And within just a few years, they could displace it if Google's not careful. I was at Eric Schmidt's house in 2022 at the Milken Institute, and he was rambling on and on about how large language models are like the next big thing. And he was absolutely right. He knew the future, yet he was completely convinced that Google was the one to win. He's like, We invented the transformer. We have all the talent. We have all the data. We have all the compute power. Look at the Google Tensor, all this type of stuff. We're going to be OpenAI. We're just going to be the guys. And what happened? They got outcompeted by startups and these types of things. So network effects change all the time. And the people that you'd expect to win, whether they be Ethereum or Bitcoin, here today, gone tomorrow. Solana was dead. Now, a huge amount of growth. Okay. Could be dead in 12 months, could grow another 5x, 10x. Those are flashes in the pan unless you have the right fundamentals, though, because you have to look at a snapshot of 10 years. The only one that stayed relevant is Bitcoin. And there's a very particular reason for that, because it's a very simple model, but like gold, it can't grow above a certain floor. Digital gold only has a certain utility and purpose. And after 500 million billion people own it, maybe you'll have a $250,000 Bitcoin or $500,000 Bitcoin, and that's it.
I actually agree with everything Charles is saying. I mean, it's pretty based, right, guys? Like, everything he's saying is quite based. You got to look at the long term. He used great examples there with projects and apps that don't, they just cease to exist. I really like the drop in the pan type of example, because it's like, what's the end goal here? Are we just here for just a quick pump and dump, or is there going to be sustenance to this project? And I mean, Bitcoin, has it outlived its purpose, and so to speak? Who knows? I mean, I think people can make something go as big as they collectively want that to go. There have been very interesting booms in the past with wood roads and wooden plank roads and all different. There's nothing new under the sun, is what I'm getting at. There's always been all these weird new speculative stuff, but he has given many reasons for Cardano to outperform Bitcoin. Will it be from the market cap perspective? Maybe. In a nutshell, I mean, this title is not clickbait. The actual reason Cardano will flip Bitcoin, it's not. There's been many examples he's listed as to why it would flip Bitcoin. Now we just let time play its role and see. But I mean, it's hard to envision that would be crazy. I would love it. I would love for it to pump Cardano bags and send this to the moon. But who knows? I think that he's definitely looking at the grand scale of things. And but it's the right mindset. Even when we look at products like Nvidia and look at what they've done and look at other projects, they've looked at this at a much larger time scale. Even if we look at the moves that Nvidia has made. And the last thing was regarding OpenAI. He made a great point, Charles, about how OpenAI has just come out as a threat. Now we see potential collaboration with Apple. And Google's, confidence there. There's not really been a great solution. Even if you look at their AI solutions, it's not been at the level we've seen from Nvidia, OpenAI. Microsoft did a very smart jump with AI to save their products too. So we'll see what happens.
And it'll kind of reach that cap there, and it's well distributed. Whereas high utility things that are smart contract systems, well, what's the value of being the voting system of every country on the planet? What's the value of being the payment system of the entire world? What's the value of being the credit system or the identity system for every country in the planet? It's incalculably higher than Bitcoin in that respect of being the value of gold. So what makes you that? The only way is embracing decentralization, first principles thinking, preserving the integrity of your system, and creating the right incentives for millions of people who don't know each other to come and use that technology in the right way, and also the ability to absorb new ideas.
I'm a hungry individual.
Nice. I love getting ads. What I will say, guys, is that the incentives are so important. It's important to have the right incentives. If there's no right incentives, humans are incentive driven, and that's why I don't like Ripple's mantra of like the best incentive is no incentive. And how are you supposed to have governance if the system is compromised and there's networks and exploits and there's levels to issues? So I think Cardano is set out to have good fundamentals in that regard. And you have to preserve the integrity of the network. If you can't preserve the integrity of the network, then what do you really have truly? You don't really have anything good at all. The whole thing will just fall apart.
Yahoo fail or MySpace fail or all these other things because they were inflexible to a changing competitive reality, and they didn't understand that their business model was no longer valid, and they were on momentum. They weren't actually driving anymore. And so Ethereum suffered from this. They got stuck in a mire, and now they have all these competitors eating away at them and slowly eating them out from the inside out, with layer twos grinding them down, which, by the way, can become layer ones at any time, especially with partner chains. And they don't have to be pro Ethereum. That network effect can move very quickly. Yet they're thinking they're like Bitcoin and they have this dominating thing. Yeah, they don't have that same cult. So they could get MySpace very quickly. So yeah, I do believe we could do this if we get the right things. This is why we're so focused on the fundamentals, like the first principles thinking in the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, the measure decentralization, the on-chain governance, these types of things, because you can't stop that once it's going fast enough, and it fixes its own problems. And if there's a mistake in your strategy, you're able to identify that faster than anybody else and absorb that. And if there's a brilliant idea, you're able to take that brilliant idea and bring it into your orbit, pivot, and make that a significant idea. No matter who you are, how brilliant you are, as a centralized business, you can't do that 24/7. The only ecosystems that can do that are ecosystems that elevate horizontally the users up to a point where each and every one of them has a say in visibility. Those are the systems that don't miss. They can't miss because you only need one smart cow to open the fence and then the whole herd gets out. So you just need one user to have a bright idea and it goes parabolic and everybody's like, yep, that's the model. Let's go do that. And then do you have a culture that allows you to pivot fast enough to go and chase that and get it done? That's what Cardano is building. That's the core USP of it. You asked me the opening question, why Cardano? Well, that's what it is. That's what we seek to do. And I have no idea, how that's going to translate to coin market cap or when that's going to translate. But directionally, it's right. It's like Don Valentine when he was talking about Sequoia, and they say, how were you so successful? He said, I knew the future. He knew that these whole transistors and computer chip things were going to change everything. But if you asked him like, okay, well, when exactly is the personal computer and who is it going to bring the personal computer? Don couldn't have foretold Steve Jobs and IBM and all this other stuff. And then
to his credit, there's been a lot of people who saw the future and devices that we currently use today decades before, and people were fudding them and be like, nah, personal computer, no one's going to use that. And now look how it's integral to our daily lives.
The 1960s and 70s, it was impossible. But he knew directionally, this is the technology to bet on. This is the approach to bet on, because how the hell is the vacuum tube going to compete with that? You got one thing that's static and it can't get any smaller or more energy efficient. You got the other thing doing this every 18 months. And the speed keeps going up every 18 months. You do the graph, you do the math, at some point it's taking over the entire world. Gordon Morris said the exact same thing. So that's the thing about crypto. Are you losing your community? Are you getting more centralized or more decentralized? Can you absorb your competitors' technology? Do you have first principles thinking? And do you have the right governance system where you don't fracture apart? I'll close with this. When I was the CEO of Ethereum many years ago, before the earth cooled and was pushed out, as many authors like to remind people, the cryptocurrency project that scared me more than anything else was not Bitcoin or Litecoin or any of these. There wasn't a lot back then, but there were a few, was NXT. And the reason being is that I witnessed in just 3 months' time, this thing come out of nowhere, built on Java with this incredibly engaged community, and they were adding features like crazy. They had user-driven assets, they had a DEX, they were going to add smart contracts through something called automated transactions. They were written in Java, they were already proof of stake. And I was like, well, the proof of stake doesn't work. They said, doesn't fucking matter, we'll fix it. This community was running, and it was going so fast. What killed them was two things. One, their token distribution wasn't so good, but you can fix that. But the other thing, and this is the more pertinent thing, is they didn't have a good governance system, so they fractured. And they broke into things like Crypty and Lisk and eventually Scorix, which is Alex Chirpinoy's project, which became Ergo. Wave was another. They fractured in all these pieces, and they couldn't get it all together. Had they had the right governance system, Ethereum wouldn't exist. NXT would be number one, because they would have just grown and grown and grown like a weed, and they would have absorbed everybody. And it was a sexy project because it was new and interesting. It was a first principles code base. It had Java. And I was like, who cares if it worked? They will find a way. This is what Brendan Nick likes to call the wrong way is the right way. When he creates JavaScript in 53 days, they had the right growth model behind it, and it became a thing. So when I looked at it, I said, look, Ethereum's going to take 24 months, and this was in 2014, to get to a point where it's hardened enough to do smart contracts. If NXT has smart contracts before us because they already have the community infrastructure, they're going to own the entire smart contract space and they'll leapfrog everybody. And so governance matters that much. It is really the core differentiator between whether a project is successful or a project will fail. And in the long term, you can never get around the fact that poor governance will kill a project. Microsoft is another great example.
I mean, like, I think about when Ripple, not to scapegoat Ripple, put them under the bus. I like Ripple, I like XRP, but we see the relationship the community has with that huge scoop of tokens and the escrow and things of that nature, and the relationship there with centralization, the bitterness that it creates. We think about what Charles says with fractionalizing, fragmenting the community. So the community is getting fragmented and leading to each of their individual projects. He brings up a good point about L2, right? And like the loyalty in the community. And I think he has a point. I think the line doesn't lie. I think when you look at the projects, everyone's just like the next cash grab, the next cash grab. Is it truly bringing value to that L1, or is it creating more problems? In the end, time will tell when it comes to these projects, right? Outside of just these cycles that we experience, outside of just the bull and the bear and this bull run that we're in, albeit we're not at the peaks of the bull. I think that's Q4 and beyond. I think that he brings up a valid point of the kind of the fractionalizing, the fragmentizing of, is that a word, fragmentizing of the communities and the projects that build on top of it, and the disagreements that they have, whether it's a lack of good governance and retaining that system, or a lack of features that are desired to exist on something they build on top. I think the good fundamentals that Cardano has set out with proof of stake, with liquid staking, with governance, with everything else, not experiencing hacks, having good like security, and being invitational in that regards, maintaining that system. Yeah, I think that we are beginning to see, guys, the waterfall of that will come in of liquidity and projects and builders and people who want to also take advantage of governance and that treasury, 8th biggest treasury, to go to the community. And because otherwise then like we have projects that are going to build bitterness, where we have projects with big centralized entities, big centralized wallets, big holdings, and we see what happens with that in the long run. So even if they have something that's high performing, it might be short term, it might be something that doesn't end well, and it's just like we haven't let it play out. People have become so impatient, so sometimes they just see like, oh my goodness, why weren't you I saw so many people complain why their project wasn't doing as well as SafeMoon in 2021. Sure, it did a big huge X, like it did like 1800X 2021, May 2021, sure, but what happened to it afterwards, the repercussions that came with that. So I think we have to look at trajectory, and when we zoom out and we look at Cardano price wise, I mean, it bounced off of the 40 cent, didn't really go below 39 cent, 40 cent. I would say that I would scoop up more personally if I see it go down to 25 to 39 cent in those ranges. But we'll see. It's kind of holding off right here. But we predicted this, guys. We predicted that the market would go sideways / dump. And it might go lower, Bitcoin, but I don't think it'll go lower than 60K. And I want to just clarify again, guys. I like Ethereum. I like Bitcoin. But Charles brings up so many valid points here. It's all based. And it's very objective and forward thinking. And sometimes people have been quite correct with their predictions, as we saw with personal computers.
Example, 1998, Bill Gates went to his research division, which at the time largest in the world for technology, and he said, tell me the future, the next 10 years, I want to know it. And here's what they told him. Bill, search, mobile computing, and social media. That's going to be it. And they wrote down the business model of Google, Facebook, and the iPhone. So a $600 billion company with a hyper monopoly that owned all technology basically had on their desk a blueprint for the entire future. And they lost it. They watched Google rise. They watched Facebook rise. They watched, the iPhone come out of nothing. Why? Because their governance sucked. Their culture sucked. And Satya Nadella wrote about it and hit refresh when he became CEO. He said, the only thing I really did was change the culture, and Microsoft did the rest, because we had all the brains and all the market stuff. And they went from like a $300 billion company, $3 trillion company under Satya Nadella. And he changed culture. He said, the CEO, the C in there is culture. So that is the key. And so you want to talk about competitive differentiators and all these other things and go beyond it. You have to do that. That's really the core of who we are, what we do, and and that's what we fight for in the Cardano ecosystem.
The full interview with Cardano founder drops very soon, so click subscribe and have bell notifications turned on.
Yeah, you heard it from him, man. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Altcoin Daily. Looks like they always give Cardano like a balanced share, you know what I'm saying? So great clip, great points raised by Charles. What do you guys think? I think it's all based, and like he made a good point about social media apps, mobile. A lot of people were just super skeptical, but look how dominant now mobile is. It's like if you don't design for mobile, it's like what are you doing, right? So I think, guys, price wise, well, what's ahead of us right now in terms of price point? I think right now we're gonna go sideways. I think even when we think of last summer, it's summers are just like, if we look at summer even of 2020, I mean, remember summer 2020, it's kind of similar to what we were experiencing then. And I think we are going to have that parabolic moment for us past Q4. Now, we've seen people like Ripple CEO calling for a $5 trillion market cap for crypto. Is it going to happen? Who knows? Only time will tell. But I don't think so. I think that we're going to have to go through a bearish summer of sideways. But it'll probably be, and not financial advice, but it'll probably be our last moment to scoop up some bags, whether it's Bitcoin, Cardano, any other altcoins that you guys have high conviction in. Let me know what you guys think for the future for a Cardano price prediction. I think we need to surpass like the buck with the $1 and head on from there. I don't like to give super extreme big price predictions, but I do believe we will surpass our previous all-time high. And when is that exactly? I'm not sure. It could be like Q1 2025 or beyond, and we might have a very long running bull season. But what I will say, guys, is that things can run up very quickly. Minutes, hours, things can run real quick. So it doesn't take too long for stuff to just start running and it will go crazy. And I think we have all the right things. Charismatic leadership from Charles, a bustling community. We got the governance. We got Chang hard fork around the corner. We got the 1.54 billion ADA treasury. We got over 62% staked. There's a lot of reasons to be bullish for Cardano than to be bearish. Now, will it flip Bitcoin's market cap? I personally don't think so. But I love the optimism and I love the objectiveness and the logical attitude of Charles coupled together with his charisma. It's excellent. So guys, a lot of reasons to be bullish on Cardano. Why are you bullish or bearish on Cardano? Let me know. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. I'll see you guys in the next Angry Crypto Show.